Okay, hi. So today we're on 110B.2 color design. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up my slides here and share that with you. Maybe, here we go. All right, so what are we going to do here? We are going to talk about color transformation, how to analyze and come up with a design, your design decisions that you're going to use, and change the color, change the effect. Okay, so there are so many hair color products out there. They're range from professional all the way down to you find some color products in the dollar store. Now, just a little side note, I would never buy a hair color from the dollar store, okay, or from the drugstore. I would definitely make sure that I'm buying something from a professional supply. But you want to make sure that you are knowledgeable in the products of what you're using, so that you can be, superior to everyone else in your area. So what you want to do is understand the relationships between the visualizing the color, where to place the color, and what you're trying to get out of that color placement, right? So here we go. Sometimes clients want color, but they don't really know how to ask about it. So you're going to want to know how to do a proper client consultation. You want to listen to their client, their concerns, offer the suggestions, discuss placement patterns, and figure out like where you're going to place it, what product you're going to use, and all that. So step one is definitely just the consultation with the client. Find out just exactly what their expectations are and what they expect, because sometimes clients expect things that are not realistic for what you have to work with. Okay, so like if someone's like 50% gray and they want their hair, and they're like 60 years old and they want the hair that they had when they were 17, that's not realistic. No matter what you do, that could not happen. So you can get them close to that, but we got to make sure that they, they're seeing things real here. So there's some reasons or some placements and some things that you can do while you're doing hair color. You can create a statement. Okay, create a fashion statement. You can place color to where it's just a pop, like bam, right in your face. There's that bright color for you. It can become a focal point also. Okay, you can enhance existing gray hair coverage or existing natural hair color. So someone's hair they want it more shiny. You can add a clear shine to it and not even like change their natural hair color, but just enhance it by making it look a little bit more shiny. You can blend gray or cover gray. Gray blending is pretty popular for people who are starting to gray right around the temples, using the product that does the gray blending, because like I said before, it shampoos out. Or you can mimic the sun's lighting effects. So highlights, just lighten the hair a few places around the face could actually give you a totally different effect. So by doing so many different types of color in someone's hair, you can actually have an effect on the form. You can draw attention away from the texture, which that's what dark colors do, right? Dark colors, which is one color throughout the whole head, will draw attention away from the texture of the hair and focus on the form line or the silhouette. It also covers some unwanted hair color. When you lighten the hair, we're going to stay on color texture. When you're using all one color, right, it can visually calm an otherwise activated texture. So if someone's hair is kind of unruly, all one color will kind of calm that down and make it look a little bit more softer. Or if you did highlights or you did alternation or accent colors, you can emphasize different features or different hair colors. It gives it some depth, gives it some dimension. Okay, so what all this is going to come down to is the pattern that you use to achieve that and the actual degree of difference between the colors. So if you're going to go like 5 shades lighter than what their natural color is, or you're going to go just a shade darker or a shade lighter, all of that can make a huge difference on the way that the hair looks when you're finished with it. If you're going to want to just do a pop of color, you got to figure out where you're going to put it. Okay, you want to create a focal point because that's where your eye is going to be drawn. So when you're getting ready to design this, you're going to look at, and this will be like a color, start of a color formulation, right? The first thing that you always want to do when you're trying to figure out what this client wants is you have to take into consideration their existing hair color. Okay, that's number one in a color formulation, how you're going to choose which color to use. You take into consideration the existing hair color. Now, again, with the client, you have to make sure that they are aware of just what they're asking for in their desired color. It doesn't go along with their existing color because there's just some things that aren't going to work. Someone that has like black hair and wants to be platinum, probably not going to get there. I mean, there's that one person that can do like anything to their hair and it's fine, but the majority of people cannot get the platinum blonde that they want if they start out with your hair color being like the darkest brown. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about existing hair color and what the desired hair color is what they want. Then you're going to have to figure out where you're going to place it. Like, where am I going to put this on this person's head? Am I going to place it, in the front, the sides, the back? Like, what patterns or shapes am I going to use? And just a little hint here, if you use a like a square or circle or a rectangle or a triangle or something like that, it makes it easier if the client wants to touch it up after it starts to grow out a little bit, that you'll have a pattern to follow. Okay, so what this is telling us when we're going to go through this color design analysis, it's the total composition, right? We talked about our existing colors, our desired colors, our patterns, and our shape. So we're going to look at this from some other areas now. We're going to look at the basic. What they're showing you right here in this picture, when you see like those white lines going through the hair, that's just been some like lightener or darkening color. From the pictures, it looks like it's a lightener that has just been kind of combed through on just a few streaks there. So this is showing you our basic level that we're going to identify it at. Where are we placing it? Then we're going into our detail level. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. So what do we have? Do we have warmth or coolness? Is it intense or is it not drab? And what's our color family? Meaning, are we going in the golds? Are we going in the reds? Are we going in the cool colors? What is the color family that we would be using to achieve that color? So that's the desired color. So the existing color is what we start with. The desired color would be the color family that we would find in the detailed level of observation. And then we'd go into abstract. Abstract is where we're going to place it. What's our pattern going to be? In this particular picture right here, these little zigzag lines, this means that this particular hair was weaved. So if I look at this and I'm going to analyze it, let's say this is brought to me and, oh, I want my hair done like this. What I'm seeing is right about the apex to the recession line in the front. What I'm seeing is a triangle. Off that side, just about to behind the ear there, I'm seeing sort of a, I don't know what, kind of a rectangle pattern that goes into that triangular pattern, and then one on the other side. But this isn't going any farther than behind the ears, which usually lines up with the apex. So that's how I would read that pattern. So it would be like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 foils. That would be real easy to place in that hair and get some fast application there. But these are patterns that you would use. Now, if this hair was really long and it grew out and they wanted to get a touch up, this is a pattern that you can follow to do that touch up on and not be lost and try to figure out where you're supposed to be placing this. but that's your abstract level of observation. It's the pattern that you're going to be using for the application. So when you're planning for this, what you want to think about is the client's haircut, the existing color with the intended color or the desired color, and then the shades and tones. This is one aspect of it. Sometimes, especially when you're doing, like a zero fade on the sides and you've got color placement, it could almost look like a line, even though that hair could be perfectly blended on the sides. It could almost look like a line because it's color, it is going to look a little bit different. So you have to really take all that into consideration. So when we're thinking about these haircuts and where we're going to place this, we have to take in the form and the texture of the haircut, right? If we're doing a repetition of color, which means we're doing the same color all over the whole head, this is going to draw the eye to the overall form. If we are doing just the ends, so just like the tips or the ends, this is going to add depth and dimension, and it's going to accentuate that texture. When we're doing a lighter zone, we are going to be accentuates the asymmetrical form. So where would you place the lighter zone on this? If we're looking at this and we're like, oh, where would the hair be lighter? You could put it on the ends. You could put it, usually the ends would be the one that it would totally show you that it was more asymmetrical. So when they talk about existing levels and desired levels, some of the things that you have to remember is that if you're starting with a darker color, it's going to make the hair color recede, so it's not going to stand out as much, or a lighter hair color is going to make the hair lift up or pop out a little bit more. Mediums are kind of in between. So we want to make sure that we think about the color placement before we go ahead and do this. And remember, dark colors visually recede and emphasize the shape and shine, while lighter colors stand out and create more texture and detail to be seen. So be intentional when you place this. So some of the questions you should be considering: should I go lighter or darker, or stay in the same level? Should I create textural interest by breaking up the light reflection with an alternation of light and dark colors? Or should I create contrasting levels of colors? Contrasting levels of colors are going to be like, boom, a lot of different hair color here. So think of the design or the arrangement pattern you want to display in the finished result. Is one color repetition? Is it a combination of multicolored strands, which would be alternation? Or is it a bold accent in a specific area, which would be contrast? Okay, so online, that always helps you with pictures, especially with clients. You can also place color within a zone. This is a sure way of differentiating your service from anything that a client could do with home hair coloring. Okay, we want to kind of keep them away from that anyway. Options are endless. However, the following are common ways of determining and planning color placement. Okay, so see where the nape is, like right above where that darker color is, you see like a zigzag line. Those zigzag lines are done for a reason, because if you just do like a straight parting across that, you're going to see like one color and one color, and it's not going to blend together. When you do a zigzag line like that, the two colors will blend together a lot nicer than just having a straight line. So those are some different zones that you can place color within, and you can do multiple colors if you want. So these are some of the different areas here. You have the front, the top, the crown, the sideburns, the nape, and the perimeter. Those are some areas that you could do zonal placements within that. If you're going to place within a shape, rectangles, triangles, circles, portions of circles, all of these different geometric shapes are specifically shaped zones used in certain areas of the head. The size and portion of these shapes are determined by your design decision. Shapes are further subdivided within partings to achieve varying patterns in the results. Shapes are commonly used, and then we have those shapes there that are commonly used. So those are some of the real common. I mean, I'm going to say rectangles and triangles are probably the most common ones out there that can be used. So there's these things called design principles, and these are to help you achieve consistency with everything that you do. Okay, so the first one that they talk about in these design principles is repetition. Repetition is just like one color, same color, all over the whole head. Okay, a repetition of color creates maximum light reflection and shine. The next one they have is alternation. So alternation in color means that the color changes from one color to another repeatedly. So it's like light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. If you're going to go with numbers, you'd be doing a pattern of like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, this is used to break up light reflection. Results create the illusion of texture. The finer the color alternation is, the more natural it will appear. Okay, so these are like highlights or lowlights. Then you get what's known as progression. Progression is a ascending or descending scale of colors. So if you're throwing numbers in there, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, or like 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, or like a ladder or stairs. Okay, that's progression. These colors can progress from lighter to darker or from warmer to cooler. Progressions can be created within a zonal pattern, also along the hair strand itself. This is what some of these like ombres and balayages, I'm sure you may have heard that term once in a while. These are all like progressions of colors. And then we end with contrast. Okay, contrast is just a relationship of opposites. Contrasting colors need to be at least 3 levels apart from one another. Darker colors create depth, while lighter colors seem to come forward, creating the illusion of volume. Okay, so if you want to make something on someone's hair that looks like a big difference in their hair, if you're going to go from like a level 7, let's say we're going from let's say a 6, we're going from a light brown, you can't just go to like a dark blonde and have it make that much of a difference, because it probably won't. So if you're going from a 6, which is a dark brown, a 7 or a light brown, sorry. 6 is a light brown, 7 is a dark blonde, 8 is a medium blonde, 9 is a light blonde. So if you're starting at a level 6, you want to go to at least a 9 for it to make that much of a difference. So that's something that you should probably remember if you're going to do things like highlights, because if you're just going like a couple shades lighter, it's really not enough to notice. Okay. Unless if they want something super subtle, yeah, that's where you want to go with just a couple of levels. But for the most part, you want to keep it a little bit lighter. Okay, so if we're going to change the color, we're going to change the effect. Okay, color can be used to camouflage gray and create a youthful look without completely changing the color of the client's hair. Where did that? Didn't even show up on here? No, it sure didn't. Okay, so color can completely change the client's appearance. In this case, creating a more youthful look. With some people that have a lot of gray hair, by adding color, it makes them look younger. Sometimes you can reduce the amount of gray. You can help a client look and feel younger without being like obvious, like, oh, hey, you colored your hair. That's where those gray blending products really come into play. Once you're able to visualize the color design and determine the color placement within the design with the principles that you have in mind, you have critical thinking and planning skills that are going to set your color work apart from everybody else. So true or false? Color transformation does not visually change or enhance the form of a design. I'm going to go with does not. I'm going to go with the false on that. A repetition of dark color enhances the texture of a design. I may have to go with the false on that too. Color designing is part of a total composition. Okay, we'll probably go with true on that. 3 levels of observation are basic, detailed, and abstract. Subdividing the head into multiple areas to create a color design within a combination color is referred to as color. Subdividing the head into multiple areas to create a color design within a combination of color is referred to as color. First, I was thinking sectioning. What did you say, Janie?
What did it say? What was the question again?
Subdividing the head into multiple areas to create a color design with a combination of colors is referred to as color designing.
Oh no, that doesn't even sound
That's
right.
at first, when I first read the subdividing, as soon as I read that, I thought
like,
sectioning.
Yeah, subsection.
But yeah, that's not what they're asking for. So that's a good one.
Well, you'll find out really quick.
Yeah, we'll find out real fast what it is for sure. Okay, false, false, true. Abstract. Oh, zones.
Ah,
Wow.
yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Why did they just say that? Right?
Right? Should have said zones. All right, so color allows the barber to visually transform the perception of design, form, texture, and create focal points. Repetition of one color throughout draws away from the texture and puts the focus on the form. Texture can be emphasized or de-emphasized based on the color patterns used and the degree of difference in the color chosen. When analyzing hair color, at the basic level, you identify lightness, darkness, and/or patterns throughout the hair. At the detail level, you identify warmth, coolness, and intensity. At the abstract level, you identify placement of color and the pattern of shapes used. And if you're coloring, color design decisions leading to the desired color design results include emphasizing or de-emphasizing the form, determining the existing and desired color levels, choosing color placement and design principles. Okay, so in other words, when you start this, you need to look at their existing color, their desired color. You need to figure out just exactly what they're asking for. And then you need to figure out the pattern that you're going to be using to do that, the product, any type of timing that may be required, and all of that other stuff, but we're getting there. So the first thing, remember, we're figuring out what they have, what they want. The second thing we're going to do is figure out where we're going to place it and the patterns that we're going to be using. Those are the first steps. Now, when we're going to identify this existing hair color, right? This is what they have. They can have multiple. If they have previous hair color on their hair, you can have multiple existing hair colors. So you may meet clients, not all the time, but you may meet clients who are interested in hair color and you don't want to send them away because that's money, right? Money is in your pocket. If you put money in somebody else's pocket if you send a client away that's asking about hair color. You can send them to my pocket. I'll take their money.
Yeah, right.
Right? So we're going to talk about how to identify this natural hair color. And actually, when we come to school tomorrow, we'll do a little exercise on how to actually identify it in real life. But now, as we're identifying this natural hair color, we have to understand how natural hair color works and how the chemical is going to react with the natural hair color to get the color that they want. Has anyone colored their hair before? I mean, like put any hair color in, Ruben? I know you have. Nick, have you colored your hair?
What have I done?
Before?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did. No, Nick. Lugo, you've ever colored your hair? Hello?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Alejandro, have you ever colored your hair?
And my eyebrows.
I remember your eyebrows, Lugo.
Yeah, I colored my
I'll
hair
never
a long
forget
time
your
ago.
eyebrows. A long time ago. Okay. So the hair color that you put in there, did you like the results? Was it, well, is this okay? Something you want to do again, not do
No, it
again?
was just more that my sister colored her hair and she had hair color left over and she just threw it on my hair.
No. What a nice brother.
Really? Okay.
It's okay. Our sisters are famous for that kind of stuff. Okay, so we got to learn how we're going to identify this hair color and how it actually works on natural hair color, or how the chemical is going to react with your natural hair color. So in order to understand how that works, you have to understand how natural hair color is going to work. All right, so there's this word here. It is called contributing pigment. Contributing pigment can also be known as natural contributing pigment or underlying pigment. You're going to hear that term comes up a lot, and that is something that if you're going lighter in someone's hair, or if you're trying to get a cool tone out of someone's hair, that is something that you're going to have to definitely know about. This is your naturally present melanin. Now, if you remember, melanin is what gives your hair and skin color. Okay. Any combination of melanin, whether it's artificial or if it is natural, is going to make a difference on the results. So we have to know how to properly assess and compare the characteristics of existing hair color against the characteristics of intended hair color. So in other words, we got to know how it's going to work on the hair. Consider the qualities of the hair, which means your porosity, your texture, your density. Choose appropriate colors for the formula and color swatches. They're your friends. Now, don't ever guarantee someone that their hair is going to come out exactly like the color, because it's probably not ever going to happen. But we do want to make sure that with these color swatches that we have an intention of the area, the range of the color that we're going to get into. So if we think about this, these color swatches, they're made by the manufacturers. They come in books, they come on rings. There's all kinds of different ways that you can get these color swatches. But these color swatches all these swatches are like a level 7, and then they're color, they're all synthetic. They're not real hair. So you can get close within that color family, but we're not going to get exactly that color. So we need to remember that when we're using these swatches. It's a tool. It's not something that you're going to say like, oh, hey, this is what we're going to get. It's a tool, just like a clipper is a tool. It's a tool to use. So this little color formulation right here, you have the contributing pigment, which is what's on their head now. You put your artificial pigment, you get your final color result. Something that I've forgotten once in my life, and it was reminded to me in a way that I'll never forget, but color, someone has artificial color on their hair. You are not going to remove that color by putting more color on it. Okay, color does not lift color. I learned that the hard way.
I think it's the only way to learn it.
Yeah. All right, so melanin. This is the pigment that gives your hair its natural color and your skin also. This is determined through genetic coding. So whatever your ancestors have or your family has, this is what color you're going to get. I'm pretty sure that's a test question too. Genetic coding. That's what you want to know. All right, our hair has 3 layers. We have our cuticle, our cortex, and our medulla. Does anyone know what layer of the hair that you're actually going to find the hair color? No guesses?
The medulla?
No, that's a good guess. No, it's actually found in the cortex. Okay, so everything that has to do with your hair, like the structure of the hair, the way it's made, anything, hair color, the cells, the strength, all of that stuff, the bonds, pretty much all of it is going to be found in the cortex. Okay. The cuticle is the outer layer of the hair. The cuticle is like, what would we say, like scales, kind of. We want it to be smooth and down there. So frizzy hair, you know, your cuticle's not smooth. So that's the outer layer of your hair is the cuticle. It's kind of like a covering. The cortex is where everything takes place. And the medulla is the center of the hair. Now, the actual purpose of the medulla is pretty much unknown. There's some people don't even have one. What'd you say, Janie?
It's a garbage can.
Oh.
All the chunk goes in.
Yeah, it's like the garbage can of your hair. There's the medulla there. It just kind of like picks up stuff. I don't know. We really don't know what it
I wrote
does.
something, but I don't know where it went.
So some people don't even have a medulla. If you find someone that is an adult and they still have that super baby fine hair, chances are they don't have a medulla because, you know, it's not everyone has one. So those are our 3 layers of our hair. Now that's the hair fiber is what we see and touch, but below the hair, we have a follicle, right? We have the down on the bottom down here. We have the hair, down in the hair bulb are pigment producing cells called melanocytes. So our melanin is the pigment of our hair, but the cell that actually makes that hair color is called a melanocyte. These are small egg-shaped structures called melanosomes. Okay. These melanosomes are protein packets surrounded by pigment granules called melanin. The melanin eventually becomes incorporated into the keratin protein of the cortex as the hair grows. Melanin develops its color according to its inherent characteristics as the hair grows. So what do you need to know about that? You need to know melanin is the pigment that gives your hair color. You need to know that melanocytes are the cells that produce these little structures called melanosomes, which are found in the keratin of your hair. Okay, it's a little complicated, but melanocytes are the pigments, melanosomes is the actual structure, and melanin is the pigment itself. Okay, so, and I guarantee you that's on a test. Guarantee you this is on a test too. We have 2 types of melanin that are found in our hair. We have eumelanin and we have, we'll go with the eumelanin first. Eumelanin produces black or brown. You're going to find eumelanin in every color of hair. It's just going to be the amount of concentration in this hair. So if you have dark hair, you have a lot of eumelanin. It's very dense. It's very concentrated in there. If you have brown hair, pretty got like a little bit of a medium amount of eumelanin. And if you have blonde hair, you probably have a very small amount of eumelanin, but it is found in all hair. The concentration of this is going to determine what color of hair you have and every hair color in between. So eumelanin is dark or brown. Then we have pheomelanin, which is red. Okay, so again, depending on the color of your hair, you could have a lot of this, or you could have a very minimal amount of it. Pheomelanin is red hair. It produces a red-yellow pigment. So if you have a lot of it, you have red hair. If you have a very light amount of it, you probably have some blonde hair. But you're going to have both of these in your hair. So eumelanin and pheomelanin are the 2 types of melanin in our hair. So here's where we get to find out about natural level and how we're going to identify it. So now we know that our hair has melanin. That's what gives it color. We know we have 2 types of melanin, pheomelanin and eumelanin. We know depending on the type of hair color that we have, what is the density of this color. Now the density of the color, like how much concentration, if you have dark brown hair, you have a lot of concentration of eumelanin. So if you're trying to get light brown hair or even blonde hair, that's why it's so hard to get that lighter hair color, because you have to break up or remove all of that dark brown eumelanin in the hair. And there's a lot of levels to go through. So this is some of the things that, you know, we always have to take into consideration when we're identifying our existing hair color going against our desired hair color. All right, so we're going to look at the client's natural level and natural tone. Okay, so we're going to determine the field of color. This is how we analyze it. We're going to determine this field of color. What do we have? Do we have dark? Do we have medium dark? Do we have medium? Do we have medium light? Or do we have light hair? And sometimes our perception, like the way I see it versus the way you see it, could be two totally different perspectives there. So this is why we use these swatches. Okay, so then we're going to identify the actual level itself. Okay, so are we level 5, which is like a medium brown? A lot of people are between like a 4, 5, 6. You know, those are like their natural levels, or in this area right here anyway. That seems to be like the most common, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes even 7, but 4, 5, 6 seems to be real common in natural levels, which is a medium brown, a dark brown, and a light brown. So we're going to determine that level. And then we're going to determine whether the tone is warm or cool. So remember, if it's warm, we're going to see more of that red come through, the red, the orange, the gold. If it's cool, you're not going to see any of that. But you're not going to really see any blue, green, or violet in someone's hair. But you will definitely know that it is not the red, yellow, or orange colors coming through.
Miss Connie, I have green undertones in my hair.
Green, huh?
Yeah, I swear.
And what makes you think you have green undertones in your hair?
Well, we were taking pictures of our hair yesterday at the shop, like trying to compare it because I was going to go, we were buying hair dye. So then on the pictures of my hair, though, you could see like green in it. Like it looks like weird, like, I don't know, like dark green, like moss.
I want to see these pictures. Do you have one?
Okay. I'll get it from my boss's phone today.
Okay, because I would really like to see that, because usually when someone has an ashy color to their hair, which I'm going to say you do have a little bit more of that ash look to your hair. I don't really see a green, but that'd be real interesting. I want to see that.
Maybe it was under the lighting or something.
Okay, so sometimes fluorescent lighting, depending on if it's like a warm bulb, it could add a little bit more yellow to your hair. The cool bulbs sort of sometimes look a little bit more greenish or bluish. And then they have like the neutral bulbs. So sometimes, yeah, the bulbs do make a difference if it's fluorescent lighting.
That's probably why, probably the ring lights.
Oh, was it on the warmth? Could be, because if they were warm, because over the holiday, we were taking family pictures and we had ring lights up. And we had to, depending on, it was kind of strange too, because depending on who was in the picture, whether if it was like one of my sons or the kids, we actually had to adjust the cool and the warmth and the light to get a better looking pictures just because of our natural skin tones. So yeah, that was a fun little experiment that we did with the ring lights and the pictures. So yeah, it does make a difference, a big difference. Yeah. But I do want to see that, that picture. Actually, maybe we'll just play with taking pictures of our hair tomorrow. Okay, so look at the undertone. Where does it fit on the color wheel? Those are some of the things that we definitely want to look at. So people that have gray hair, like.
Also, I sent my homework in from yesterday.
Did you fix it?
Huh?
Text it?
Yeah, I texted it. There was the picture part of it, at least the car thing.
Okay, I'll look at it. I haven't looked at any of the texts today, but I will. Okay, cool. So gray hair, right? It's often more coarse than anyone else's type of hair, which makes it more resistant to color. That cuticle layer is really compacted tightly on that. Sometimes you get someone that has gray hair and it doesn't feel coarse. It feels like a cotton ball. You know, they have very soft gray hair, but it doesn't mean that it's not resistant. Okay, you're going to find that a little bit. Sometimes with gray hair, especially if it's super resistant and doesn't want to take anything, you may have to do what's known as pre-softening or pre-lightening, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Gray hair, you know, the primary factor is heredity, but sometimes people with gray hair, their hair turns gray due to like illness, medication. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why people get gray hair, but most of it's just heredity. So what causes it is that your melanocytes slow down the production, and it leads to the gradual and eventually completely loss of color of hair. Okay, so your mixture of non-pigmented hair, which is white, and then the pigmented hair, which is slowing down, it's what's causing more of that salt and pepper kind of look in someone's hair. More and more melanocytes becoming inactive result in more white hair. Okay, gray hair is found in every color. It doesn't matter if your hair is dark, light, in between, you do find gray hair in that. And gray hair can also be like from a light gray to a completely white, to like a dark gray, to like a steel color gray. I mean, there's lots of different colors of gray actually. So most areas though, that people are going to notice their gray hair first is going to be the front hairlines, the sideburn area, the top and crown. Usually in the back and the nape area, the hair is usually not the same amount or the same color gray as it is in the temples. There's a lot of people that like in their temple area, their hair is almost like a white gray. And then in the back, in the like the crown area, it's like a dark gray. But if we think about this, it makes sense because your hair is darker in the crown area than it is in your temple area, right? When you're going lighter, you always start in the back because that's where hair is the darkest. So as you're turning gray, again, your gray can vary in colors depending on, you know, what the percentage of gray is. So when we talk about covering gray hair, we have to think about the percentage of gray that the person currently has. We usually go in percentages. Okay, we go in like quarters, right? 4 quarters makes $1. So if you're 100% gray hair, you got the whole dollar. Think about dividing your hair into 4 workable sections, right? You got your section from your forehead to your nape and from your ear to ear. So take this, you know, front section of the hair and think of how much hair is in that section. If they have that much hair or that much gray spread out throughout their whole head, then they're about 25%. 50% is easy because it's half and half. When you get to 75 to 100, I mean, I can't really look at somebody and be like, oh yeah, you have 83% gray hair. That's, to me, if you've got 83% gray hair, pretty much at 100%. Because when you start with 25%, it's just a slight amount of gray. When you're at 75%, you have just a slight amount of hair that's not gray. So, you know, anywhere when you get to 75 to 100% of gray, you're pretty much like all the way gray. If you look at someone and you're looking at them and you see a few gray hairs here and there, then you can say they're 75%. But the person has to come up to you and go like, oh my gosh, look right here. I have all this gray hair right here. Not so much being a lot of gray hair because you can't really see it till they point it out to you. So that's going to be under 25%. Some people get gray hair just in patches, like they just might have one spot that's got a whole bunch of gray hair. And that's pretty common. I mean, I see that a lot. So the book says if the client has approximately 25 to 30% gray hair, apply a color 1 level lighter than the desired shade. If they're more than that, you go with the color that they pick, or they go to the color that's a little bit darker. You got to think, if you go the color that they want and they're used to seeing this gray hair, it's going to appear really dark to them because they're used to seeing the lighter hair from the gray. So always make sure that during your consultation, if you're trying to cover gray 100%, that you're really aware of that. If someone's 75% gray, they're saying to adjust that color formula by applying 1 level darker than the desired shade, just because the gray hair could be more resistant and it's not going to take as well. But again, do your consultation real thoroughly because that might be too dark for them. So these are things that we want to think about when we're talking about the gray hair, because it's a beast. Like I said earlier, 100 times gray blending is real popular, and we'll definitely get into that. We actually did some. What day was it? Junior did one, I think, on Wednesday. So that's the gray I was just talking about, 25, 50, 75, 100. Okay, so those color charts will help you decide. We talked about the pre-softening, but we'll talk more about pre-softening in a little bit. So when we're actually going to be looking at the client's hair and we're going to be identifying this. So world population. I'm just going to throw a question in here real quick. So the levels of melanin you have in your hair can vary over time, causing a person's hair to change color. It's possible to have hair follicles with more than one color on the same person. What color do you think is the most popular hair color in the world? Like what type of hair color do you think people have more? Do you think it's more like there's more blondes in the world, there's more brunettes in the world, more redheads? You know, what do you think is the most?
Brunettes.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely think so too. So we're going to look at our natural hair color and we're going to identify our existing hair color naturally. Okay, so we talked about how the manufacturers identify the name of their artificial colors by level, which is your 1 through whatever 12, and by tone, which is like an RV, which is your red violet. These base colors or base tones is the predominant tone. That's known as the base color, right? That's the one that's going to come through. That's the one that you're going to see as your base color. So now we're going to talk about identifying artificial hair colors because we've just identified our natural hair color with our melanin, our eumelanin, our pheomelanin. Now we're going to talk about these base colors and our predominant tones in artificial hair color. So think of that color wheel. Keep in mind your color wheel. That's going to be, and the client's contributing pigment. That's their melanin, right? Now we're going to decide which base color is right to achieve the color results. So here's some of the most common ones out there. We have ash, yellow, blue, green, gold, neutral, red, orange, red, red, violet, violet, and red or blue violet. So ash. Okay, so in a lot of hair colors, ash has a green base to it. But there are some hair colors out there that ash has a blue base to it, or it could be blue-green. So, you know, using your color wheel, you got to think about what that blue-green is going to help enhance or help remove. So that one's a little trickier. Yellow, yellow's, we use yellow, but yellow usually means more gold in hair color. Okay, blue's out there. Again, green is usually along the ash one, but they do have some green base cool browns actually. Neutral is a combination of all the base colors, red, yellow, and blue. Red, orange is just that, red and orange. Red, red, violet, violet, blue, violet. Okay, those are pretty easy. When you get to the red, orange, the red, violet, and the blue, violet, again, those are your tertiary colors, right? You've got your blue being your primary and your violet being your secondary color. So those are your tertiary colors. But these are pretty common. All hair color lines out there, you're going to find an ash, you're going to find a gold, you're going to find a neutral, you're going to find a red, you're going to find a violet. You may find a beige, which beige is sort of a, the base color on beige is sort of like a pinkish, purplish type color. You're going to find those in every hair color line. Now, some of the other colors might throw things together for you, like, you know, you might find red, copper, or well, red, orange is kind of like copper, but you might find like a copper red or a red copper, or, you know, something along those colors. So you usually find oranges being coppers and golds being yellows. So when they talk in hair color language and someone says copper and you're like, I don't know what base color copper is, it's usually an orange or an orange red. depending on the level. So like if it's a darker one, you're probably going to find an orange red. If it's a lighter one, you might find a golden orange. You know, they're all going to depend on different colors, depending on the level and the color manufacturer. So, but those are pretty common for base colors there. So also with the base colors, you're going to be able to identify whether it's warm, cool, or neutral. So like ash would be cool, you know, gold would be warm. Blue violet would actually be cool, even though because they're blue and violet, but a red violet is going to be warm. So, you know, this is just going to help you identify that, what the person says. Now, the color manufacturer is not only going to give you the numbers like a 5RV, which tells me that that's a medium red violet, but they're going to throw these names out here. The names here are really hard to determine because if somebody said that they wanted mahogany or auburn or burgundy and you show them the color chart, they're going to pick like one of all three of those. They're all red violet. So what's the difference between auburn, mahogany, and burgundy? I mean, then you got plum. Well, the difference is the actual levels. So just because somebody says they want burgundy hair, if their hair is really dark, you figure the burgundy is probably about a level 4 or 5, you know, and then their hair's a 3, how are you going to get that burgundy color and make it look pretty? So again, the names, we need to go by the levels more than we need to go by the names, because the 5RV is easy for me to understand. If someone says burgundy, I can't understand it that well. I don't know the level of it. I don't know, you know, what the base color is of it. Burgundy's red, kind of a reddish purple color to me, but you know, that's what other people say. So the manufacturers are going to have the letters and the numbers, and then they're also going to have the name underneath it. Like I said, the name doesn't identify anything to me. Some of the other things we're going to bring into consideration while we're looking at this is going to be the texture of the hair, which would be the diameter of one hair strand. Because of course, if someone has really thick texture, then it's actually going to take a lot more color. If someone has porosity, right? If you remember, the porosity is the ability of the hair to absorb moisture. So once you put color on it, it's going to suck it up. If someone has extremely porous hair, it's going to suck it up and that color is going to look dark. And it may not even last. If their hair is that porous, it might wash out and look kind of like mud by the time you're done with it. Okay, so these things are going to have to do with your color absorption and your processing time. Porosity is one of a huge factor when it comes to hair color, huge factor. So when we talk about someone's texture, you have 5, medium, or coarse. Okay, coarser hair is probably going to take a little bit longer than fine hair. And fine hairs might be showing a little bit of a darker result compared to the rest of it. So this cuticle layer has a lot to affect with your porosity. Resistant porosity is going to be a smooth, tightly compacted cuticle. Average is going to be slightly raised. The color is going to absorb real easy. And then extreme, your cuticle layer is going to be missing or lifted, and it's just going to suck it up like a sponge. Like I said, porosity is one of the main factors in hair color, and it has to do with your cuticle layer there. So it will determine the processing time and the hair a lot. So there's products out there that you can use to kind of equalize your porosity. They're known as porosity fillers. Filler may be a term that you've heard before. There's color filler and there's porosity filler, but at this point in time, we're going to talk about porosity fillers. They're usually a spray that you just kind of spray on the hair prior to a color service. And what they do is they go in and they sort of fill in all of those like intracellular spaces along there, or like the potholes. They're going to fill that in, and it's going to give it more of an even surface to apply the color. So it's supposed to take a little bit evener or more even along that strand. If someone's doing a lot of heat styling, doing a lot of like swimming, has had a lot of chemical services already placed on top of that, you may need to do a test strand just to make sure that their hair is going to be able to take that actual color. Okay, when changing the hair color, keep in mind that the final color result is the combination of the existing contributing pigment and the color applied to the hair. Keep in mind that the final color result is the combination of the existing contributing pigment and the color applied to the hair. Existing, artificial, yes. Melanin is determined through genetics. A dense amount of phthalo melanin produces red hair. The primary factor in gray hair is heredity. Levels of color range from levels of color range from 1 to 10 or 12. Texture is consideration. Texture is a consideration that just describes the degree of coarseness or fineness of the hair, and porosity is the ability of the hair to absorb moisture, liquids, or hair color. True genetics, red, heredity, fineness. Oh, chemicals. Okay, chemicals, colors, chemicals. All right, so we're done for today. And all right, you guys, any questions? No? All right, I'll see you all at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, bright and early. Bye, have a good day.